But you could see her, and her name is Janet, and you just call her name and she appears. That's right. And here she is, Janet.
Hello.
Hello, I would like to share with you a prose poem from this cc&d collection book On the Edge. And the prose poem, it's not a periodic table poem, I've blown you away, is titled Scars. And it's actually the reason for the name of Scars Publications, which is the thing that I run with the magazines. So it was based on this, and it's called Scars. Like when the Grossman's German Shepherd bit the inside of my knee, I was babysitting 2 girls and a dog named Roscoe. I remember being pushed to the floor by the dog. I was on my back, kicking as this dog was gnawing on my leg, and I remember thinking, I can't believe a dog named Roscoe is attacking me. And I was thinking that I had to be strong for these 2 little girls who were watching it all. I couldn't cry. Or when I stepped off Scott's motorcycle at 2 a.m. and burned my calf on the exhaust pipe. I was drunk and he was driving, and I was careless when I swung my leg over the back. It didn't even hurt when I did it, but the next day it blistered and peeled. It looked inhuman. I had to bandage it for weeks. It hurt like nobody's business. When I was little, roller skating in the driveway and I fell, my parents yelled at me, "Did you crack the sidewalk?" When I was kissing someone and I scraped my knee against the wall, or maybe it was the carpet, when someone asked me what that scar is from, I tell them I fell. Like when I was riding my bicycle and I fell when my front wheel skidded in the gravel. I had to walk home. Blood was dripping down my elbows to my wrist. I remember thinking the blood looked thick, but that nothing hurt. I sat on the toilet seat cover while my sister cleaned me up. It was a small bathroom. I felt like the walls could have fallen in on me at any time. Years later, I could still see the dirt under my skin on my elbows. Or when I was 5 years old and my dad called me a very, very bad word because of the mess in the living room, and it wasn't even mine. Like when I scratched when I had the chicken pox. Oddly enough, no periodic table poems for you, but I am going to go on this series of destruction instructions for one more for you. And this one's really gross and really mean and really cruel, and no, I've never thought of it. I promise. But I figure if drones are so popular, then this seems to make sense. 2015 destruction instructions. Use drones to kill. The new arsenal in the U.S. military has been to use drones to kill Middle Eastern enemies. Because, with drones for killing, we're free of friendly fire and are saved from sniper strikes. What a deal. But now those drones are used by Amazon to send you your products to you. And these drones are filling up the sky, invading our airspace. The FAA has started restrictions. But who listens to the FAA anyway when drones with cameras are for sale to the highest bidder? Because I've got plans for my own little drone. I'll take that camera off because I don't need to film what my drone's gonna do. It might implicate me. Because my little hover drone will be armed with gun turrets and instructions of exactly which house to go to and of exactly who to aim for. Because, you see, I can keep my distance and let my technology do the work for me. As I said, as long as I set the right coordinates right down to your house, the way you destroy mine, I don't need to be anywhere near you to cover my tracks and set my destruction instructions. I'll watch that drone fly off and do my bidding, and I'll just sit back, have a drink, and wait to hear of your ghastly death. This one is not cruel or whatever. It was one of these ones written in 2019, Yeah, some of them get longer, and I'm stunned at this one. This one is called My Old Stomping Grounds. I have to cue it up. Be like Robin. Wait, I gotta cue up my thing. Right?
Yeah.
Stories have been told that when the Chicago Mafia would dispose of bodies a century ago, they would bury them in what is now forest preserves in Chicago's southwest suburbs. A few decades after the Chicago mob had made its mark, scientists developed the first self-sustaining nuclear reactor at the University of Chicago and at the west viewing stands of their Chicago Stadium. Operated for only 1 year, this Chicago Pile 1 was disassembled and buried at one of the forest preserves in the southwest suburbs of Chicago. I doubt my dad was feeling scientific or even thinking about his father-in-law, who did jobs for the mob back in the day. But my dad decided to move out of Chicago into a southwest suburb. He could get a ton of land for cheap, and his concrete company could help him build a nice house for the family. It was a nice place to raise kids, but far enough away from Chicago to still need to use 50-pound salt blocks for well water. It was a simpler life, riding our bikes around the nearby forest preserves, and I never got radiation burns there, and I didn't discover any buried bodies. So I don't know if it was the mafia or the scientists who gentrified this area south and west of Chicago. And I can't say it was my father's doing, but all I know is that after he lived there for a while, his whole town became so upscale. So this is when I moved back into Chicago, but when I did, very straight me moved into a very gay neighborhood. Unlucky for me, I couldn't stay, so I moved not to where my friends lived, but very white me moved to a very Hispanic neighborhood, just north of where gangs would pick you out because of the color of your skin. And yeah, I lived there for years. The rent was cheap. I had more space, though I got tired of people breaking into my car. It was almost like clockwork. Still, I'd walk home at night, I'd watch my surroundings, and I always stayed safe. I was fine, really, because there was no place I'd rather be. I've moved away from Chicago for years now, but recently I went back and visited my old stomping grounds. I was stunned when I saw how the streets in my neighborhood were now lined with martini bombs, martini bars, kitschy shops from local artists, and vegetarian restaurants. And although I don't believe it, that's when I was told that I must come from a long line of gentrifiers. Now, by that strict definition, that's not true. A gentrifier buys an old house and renovates them so that they're more upscale. I don't do that. I just move someplace and change the neighborhood instead. Thanks.